Fall River Line, which ran from 1847 to 1937. The Fall River Line operated a fleet of lavishly appointed steamers that plied the coastal waters of southern New England. It connected New York, Boston, and points between. The line's night boat service, carried on by steamers like the Plymouth, departed from the piers of Lower Manhattan at dinner time for an overnight trip up Long Island Sound to Fall River, where passengers could then connect with trains to Boston or smaller steamers that ran from New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard, as well as Nantucket. The Fall River Line did not serve the islands directly, but along with the Old Colony in New York, New Haven, and Hartford railroads, it performed part of a transportation network that made the vineyard accessible to residents of major cities in southern New England. From the end of the Civil War to the beginning of World War II, summer vacations on Martha's Vineyard depended on travel by train and steamer, and for most vacationers took place in resort hotels, guest houses, and second homes built within easy reach of the steamer's wharfs. Only with the post-1945 development of highways and roll-on, roll-off ferries like the Islander, which was in 1950, did car-based tourism become the norm. The Fall River Line had the largest side-wheel steamboats in the world, starting with the steamer Bay State, launched in 1847, and ending with the steamers Priscilla, launched in 1894, and Commonwealth, launched in 1908. The Fall River Line was a night line carrying hundreds of thousands of passengers yearly between New York City and Fall River, Massachusetts, with a stop in Newport in each direction. Most passengers left Fall River for Boston by express train. The interiors of these vessels were some of the most spectacular on any steamboat available. Many factors contributed to the final demise of the Sound steamers. For instance, the opening of the Cape Cod Canal. This brought new competition from the Eastern Steamship, all-water route boats, although they themselves had vanished. The growth of the through railroad service at low prices made a further cut into the business. The private automobile caused the deepest inroads of all. As the 1929 Depression wore on, line after line disappeared until the length only the Fall River route remained. For all once far-flung New Haven Railroad steamboat network, the boats often ran with a bare handful of passengers. In 1937, when business was booming, there was a labor dispute. Unheard of events transpired at the piers, the old Fall River Line, the Commonwealth, and the Priscilla, each making ready to get underway at the opposite ends of the route, was suddenly hit by a sit-down strike. Just as the cry went up, all ashore that's going to shore. Special trains were assembled hastily to carry the disgruntled passengers for a few days. The crews remained aboard the ships, eating the supplies until everything was gone, and then management, with equally dramatic sadness, seized the opportunity to announce that the business would be no more. The old steamboats were towed away to Providence first and then finally to the shipbreakers. They were sold for a mere $88,000, which was very, very minuscule as opposed to the $6 million which they put to be valued at and invested in. The fleet operated from 1847 until 1937, and the ships include the Bay State, launched in 1847, the Massachusetts, launched in 1847, the Empire State, launched in 1848, the State of Maine, which was acquired by the company in 1849, the Metropolis, launched in 1854, the Old Colony, launched in 1865, the Newport, launched in 1865, the Bristol, which was acquired, was launched in 1869, the Providence, again this was acquired, launched in 1869, the Pilgrim was launched in 1883, the City of Fall River was launched in 1883 and was a package freighter. The City of Brockton was launched in 1886 and again was a package freighter. The Puritan, which was launched in 1889, which we'll get to in a minute. And then the Plymouth was launched in 1890. The City of Taunton was launched in 1892, which was a package freighter. The Priscilla launched in 1894. The Providence was launched in 1905. And lastly, the Commonwealth, the last ship of the line, was launched in 1908. So now that we know a little bit of the background on the Fall River line, it's time to discuss the aforementioned Puritan, a steamboat owned by the line. What we're looking at right now is a model, and this was constructed by Gilbert Taylor, second president of the Board of Trustees of the Webb Institute of the Naval Architecture, and presented to the Webb Institute. Designed by George Pierce, the Puritan was built in 1888 at Chester, Pennsylvania, for service as a passenger vessel of the Fall River Line on Long Island Sound between New York City and Fall River, Massachusetts. The Puritan was a transition from the old to the new in steamboat architecture. It was the first vessel on Long Island Sound to have a steel hull. It had a total of 360 staterooms and accommodations for nearly 1,000 people. The lavish interior decoration was in the style of the Italian Renaissance, and it was one of the most magnificent vessels known in the history of steam navigation up to that time. Her overall length was 419 feet 9 inches. Her breadth was over the guards was 91 feet, and her registered gross tonnage was 4,593. She began service on June 17th of 1889 and ran in the regular service between New York and Fall River until 1908, when she was held at Newport, Rhode Island, with steam always up as a spare boat. Her fastest trip was made in 1899 when she made the 179-mile voyage in 8 hours and 24 minutes, at times doing better than 22 miles per hour. The great expense of keeping her always available for duty in Newport was too great, and she was withdrawn from service in 1912. She was then taken to Stonington, Connecticut, where she was tied up. In January of 1915, she was sold to the Scott Wrecking Company of New London for scrapping. She was dismantled in 1916, and she was broken up around 1920.